Hi, my beloved customer. We are DGM, Dangerous Goods Management Group, and obviously we work on the safe transport of dangerous goods. We would like to share some information with you today to ensure the safety and security of shipments, as well as compliance with the regulations. First of all, we shall briefly introduce ourselves. This adventure began in the Netherlands in 1987. We now have multiple offices in different countries that you can see in the directory on our website. We do operations, consultancy, auditing, and, of course, training. Regarding training, we would like to talk about Cbta today. Did you know that Cbta stands for Competency-Based Training and Assessment Approach? The goal of competency-based training and assessment is to produce a competent workforce by providing focused training. But in the end, the content of the regulations does not change with the Cbta. The DGR remains the same, except for the yearly changes, of course. What changes now is the focus, the methodology, let's say. We are going to look for personalized training, tailored content, and continuous improving. Good training will provide benefits for the employees and for the company. But now, imagine the amount of resources dedicated to try to adapt the training for each student and their individual needs. Besides other tasks that are necessary, such as training needs analysis, design of materials, creation of all materials, conducting the training itself, evaluation and assessment afterwards, keeping of records, communication with the client, etc. Why the Cbta then? Why did we have to change the training approach? Obviously, a competent workforce reduces costs caused by poor performance or miscommunication. Also, an incompetent workforce could result in costs and delays in shipment. Even more critically, it could result in the introduction of safety risks. I think every single one of us know about some incident or accident caused by poor performance, mistakes, lack of training, miscommunication, or other similar situations. And by introducing security risks, we can also have greater consequences, be it material damage, personal damage, damage to the environment, sanctions, and other significant losses. That is why the Cbtas wants to ensure that you are able to perform all your tasks and subtasks correctly via training. You know what they say, practice makes perfect. You probably are asking yourself right now, who is responsible for this? Well, I am sorry if any employer or legal representative of the company is watching this and did not know that it was 100% responsible for the Cbta implementation. It is the employer who is responsible to determine the knowledge and skills needed by the employee and be able to assess the level of competency prior to them performing a specific function or functions. This responsibility implies that the employer must have a clear picture of the tasks to be performed, such as a task assessment, and pre-establish the performance criteria to evaluate it. But do all employers have enough knowledge about dangerous goods or enough time available to analyze the needs of their employees, design the training material, evaluate and assess the training, etc.? Luckily, they can hire third parties to do everything related to the Cbta approach. The employer or those acting on their behalf must tailor the material found in the guidelines to reach the level of competency required for each function identified. There are 3 core competency factors: knowledge, skills, and attitude to carry out tasks and subtasks under specified conditions to achieve a particular level of proficiency. Knowledge is the theoretical information of a subject that enables a person to understand the concepts and principles. How do we assess knowledge? We can do it in the classroom with questions, with a final written test, with an online test, and other types of assessment. Skills are the abilities to perform an activity or action, which can be developed through the process of acquiring knowledge and continuous practice. How do we assess skills? We can do practical exercises in the classroom, such as mark and label a package, visit the warehouse, etc. Attitude is a persistent internal mental state that influences an individual's choice of action, such as the level of commitment. How do we assess attitude? We can do it via participation in the class, attendance, motivation to learn, etc. We are looking for an active role and multiple types of interaction between instructor and trainee in order to get the most knowledge out of the training program. Please keep in mind that an experienced person will have to design the complete training program, and an experienced person will have to assess the success of that program. Let's review the 3 core competencies one more time because it is an important concept to understand. Knowledge is specific information required to enable a learner to develop and apply the skills and attitudes to recall facts, identify concepts, apply rules or principles, solve problems, and think creatively in the context of work. Knowledge is an outcome of the learning process, whether learning occurs in formal or informal settings. There are different types of knowledge: declarative, procedural, strategic, and adaptive. A skill is an ability to perform an activity or action. It is often divided into three types: motor, cognitive, and metacognitive skills. A motor skill is an intentional movement involving a motor or muscular component that must be learned and voluntarily produced to proficiently perform a goal-oriented task. A cognitive skill is any mental skill used in the process of acquiring knowledge, such as reasoning, perception, and intuition. A metacognitive skill relates to the ability of learners to monitor and direct their own learning processes. It is thinking about thinking, for example, planning how to approach a given learning task, monitoring comprehension, and evaluating progress toward the completion of a task. Attitude is a persistent internal mental state or disposition that influences an individual's choice of personal action toward some object, person, or event, and that can be learned. Attitudes have affective components, cognitive aspects, and behavioral consequences. To demonstrate the right attitude, a learner needs to know how to be in a given context. We are not only evaluating and keeping records on the knowledge. We have to keep records on skills and attitude as well. On screen, you can see examples of KSA applicable to dangerous goods personnel. Please take a look at it. You can stop the video if you need to. In the Cbtas, we also have phases to do everything. There are 5 phases in what it is called the ADDIE model. In the first phase of the ADDIE model, we can see that A stands for analyze. The D stands for design. The second D stands for develop. The I stands for implement. And the E stands for evaluate. The phase 1 is meant to analyze the training needs. We need to discover what each employee needs to be able to build adapted training for them. In the phase 2, we have to design the training according to the needs discovered. In phase 3, we have to develop all the materials. In phase 4, we have to implement. Basically, conduct the training or teach the course. And last but not least, phase 5 will be to evaluate how everything went, meaning the students, but also our own training. This assessment is done to be able to improve continuously. Other important idea is that we need to concentrate on functions and responsibilities, rather than a job title or description. I am sure many of you were hired with some predefined tasks, but you ended up doing much more than that and from different departments maybe. You should always be trained for every task you perform, no matter if it matches your job title or even your job description. What is important is that you are really doing all those tasks correctly. Please remember that there are no more categories. Now we have to follow job functions. I hope this information was useful. You can always contact us to know more.